Stories, Dan Simon, and Dan and Seven Stories are great. Publishing,
Sure.
small publisher, independent, publish a lot of things that are, otherwise don't get published. But just the amount, the money difference, I mean, it's just incredible, the amount of money differences, and when we sell the book versus when they sell the book or when it's online. I mean, we don't get a lot of money. Like, honestly, if you buy a Project Censored book off the shelf at Barnes & Noble, we get $1.
And that's why
And that's a $20
that's why they're all broke.
Yeah.
That's why what I'm trying to preach is, we don't have to do it that way anymore. We've got alternatives now. And this way we're rewarding our favorite artists instead of watching them go into debt and, into hiding.
And you have less control over the book. We even have to argue about what's on the cover. They have layout people that decide some of those things. They also, in fact, this was a special bonus at Seven Stories. For 2 years in a row, they've added mistakes to the copy. So that must be like a bonus that we got that we didn't know about. That they added errors that weren't in the original text, and I have the PDF manuscripts that I wrote that don't have the errors in them.
Yeah.
So again, I mean, not that what I'm saying is that can happen to anybody, whether you're in a major publisher or whether you're publishing yourself.
Yeah, and I agree too. I'm not bashing, even indies. I'm not even bashing the old system, just basically admitting what it is. And it doesn't do what it should be doing, which is artist development and audience development. And if it's no longer doing those things, it makes no sense to sign a contract because you're giving up everything and getting nothing in return. But even independent indie labels like Network Music Group, great independent label, I'm totally in favor of. I'm going to do a gig on the 28th at Book Passage. I'm delighted to give 50% of my money to Book Passage. Same with Project Censored. I give a percentage of my money to Project Censored for any books that are bought. But the beauty is I can only do this because I earn 100% of this. Imagine if all I made was $1 a book and I wanted to give you 20% of it, that's 20 cents.
Yeah.
It's not worth you guys promoting it, but because I'm giving away $7 a book.
Also beyond the editing and the money, just the enthusiasm
Sure.
that you showed in the women's empowerment issue, and the singer showed in creating all of these different rewards.
Right.
I was in a writers group in New Mexico in the early 90s. This is way before computerization got going. And those guys who were accomplished published writers who had been published by major publishers, their concern was they were feeling paranoia, basically, which was not paranoia, but truth, that the Eastern establishment publishers weren't paying any attention to them as Westerners. So it's almost like west of the Mississippi.
Sure.
And they were, and in terms of marketing, like they could get it published, but the publishing council wasn't doing anything to market it. And so they would go to county fairs and sell their own books. Kind of like
Brilliant.
you guys
Right.
And
it's fascinating though that they'll take all the rights, but they're not out there exploiting it either.
What's that?
They'll take all your rights, but they're not in the business to help you exploit speaking and training and workshops and weekend seminars. I make more money off speaking than I do off my book. Imagine if I had sold all my rights to a publisher who's not helping me get to the United Nations.
Unless they have a tour package, and then you have to go to their hotel.
Right. We get one more question, or is it time?
Yeah, we have one more. We can have Ed have one more question, and then we're gonna wrap up.
No, actually, the one parting shot that I couldn't resist about the self-publishing. Hey, whenever you do your work through a commercial house, then what goes out gets dictated by what they think will sell, because they're in business to make money, regardless of what your motives are for producing the work.
It's true, and that's the one thing I open up with in the music chapter is these companies are in the business of making money. They want to know that they can sell X amount of books or CDs. But remember, and then you get to the checkout line, and unfortunately Best Buy has a limited amount of shelf space, and your record is competing with like high-end audio equipment and washers and dryers, and for that limited amount of shelf space, remember, that's their scarcity model. So the world now, it's an abundant world. We don't have to worry about the scarce shelf space and all these other issues. But yeah, you're right, they're in the business of making money, but I think they've really kind of, especially labels, they've kind of screwed themselves because their bean counter mentality led them to think that CDs were the only thing to record, were the only thing to make money on, right? And yet most touring artists know that most of their money is made from licensing to films, cell phones, ringtones, advertisements, retail, aggregators, elevators, Muzak, right? They also make money from touring and from performances and from concert paraphernalia, t-shirts and hats. There's so many other revenue streams beyond the CD. And of course, labels just counted it as, okay, you sold X amount and Billboard said you're great. and that was their only criteria. So I think if they ever get back into the business, I think they'll be okay if they ever get back into the business of actually helping artists, right? Build an audience, number one, and number two, find more revenue streams for their work. They'll be successful again. Until then, everybody's doing it on their own, and power to them.
Thanks for coming, Dave. And thanks for you all for sticking around. Dave has some books in the back. Dave's going to be here for a few minutes tearing down, so anybody that wants to come and talk to Dave while he's tearing down before he goes to Sonoma State, please feel free. Thanks to Students for Democratic Society for sponsoring the event. There's more information about them on the table. We meet Wednesdays at 3 o'clock in LA 118. Also, come see the Iraq Veterans Against the War event tomorrow between 1 and 4 in the trophy room. Thanks for coming.
Dave's right.
What's that?
I think that's it.
Thanks so much.